welcome to the show presented by VDG Sports. I am your host, Vince Douglas Gregory. I have an amazing show for you. In fact, it's different. It's going to be different, as you probably already know, or as you probably already noticed. It is extremely different, but hey, it's still the same. I'm still here. I am still here. Is it easier or is it harder for a team to make the MLB playoffs or the NFL playoffs? Hey, I know what you are thinking, but don't worry. Do not worry. Is it harder for a team to make the MLB playoffs or the NFL playoffs? I know. Even though baseball is my favorite sport, I can be fair. I definitely can be fair in this scenario, in this situation. Long answer though. First, football, it's all about attrition. It's all about being able to stay healthy until the end of the season, getting through the season. Because once the playoffs start, it's who has who available and ready to go. Who's got who available and ready to play the game. If you don't have your players ready and available to play, how can you win? And if those players aren't there, it's next man up. But is the next man good enough? Is there enough cohesion in the team itself where they can actually make it, where they can actually make a push into the playoffs if it's possible? Because it's all about staying healthy and having a chemistry and getting on a roll. And once you get in the playoffs, once you make the playoffs as an NFL team, it's any given Sunday. In other words, it's a one-off game. You can get mismanaged by your team, head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Somebody came up with an incorrect game plan, and now the game plan has put the team under the water, behind the 8 ball. And now you are fighting for your football life or livelihood, meaning you're trying to advance, assuming you've made the playoffs. And that is pretty hard. It is hard to stay healthy in a game where you have peeps and people smashing into each other, or trying to get away, or avoiding the smashing into each other. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's not that simple. Sure, you can make it a simple game. You can roll back some of the lingo, some of the language, some of the plays, but it's pretty difficult. Having that many players working together for a common goal and having it successful. Moving the ball down the field and being successful, scoring touchdowns and not just FGs. Yeah, that's pretty tough. Baseball, on the other hand, it's more or less all about variance. It's not a one game scenario or winner takes all. It's, it's about winning the series. It's about winning more games than the other team in a set number of games. Basically, best out of whatever the series calls for. It is not an any given one game. It's not a one-off. Get in, flip a coin, flip some coins, you can make it. You can get there. Baseball, though, is a long season. Injuries do happen. Injuries do occur. There's 162 games. You play almost every single day. But in comparison to other sports, it's not as violent. Are there violent plays? Are there violent occurrences that can happen within the game itself? Yes, it's a sport. Sport breeds combat. Sport breeds violence on other players that's trying to compete and trying to win. Even with the large number of games, baseball isn't that rough. You can make it. Injuries still happen, injuries still occur, but it's not as difficult to overcome an injury like it is in other sports when dealing with baseball, unless it's one of your best players, unless it's a player that you are depending on. And even with that, there's a replacement. There's a stat for that. There's a statistic for that. Wins above replacement, there's a replacement player that you can just insert into that position. And the player, how more likely is that player to get a win? And the win above replacements, that's the simple definition. That's the simple way of explaining it. Sure, and yes, there are more detailed ways of getting there, but this is how I chose to do it.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.